Somehow, I always knew it would end like this.
You and me both, Guybrush. Escape from Monkey Island is the fourth installment of the Monkey Island series, and the last original graphic adventure game to be developed by LucasArts. There's a lot to talk about here, so I'm just going to jump right into it. For all the gripes I'm about to give about this game, these technical issues are the only real reasons I would strongly urge you to take a pass on playing this. This isn't me, it's the game that doesn't want you to play it. If you bought the Steam or GOG version of this game, you should probably be good to go. Well, to start the game at least. I ended up using a Steam copy with a couple of tweaks I'll mention in just a bit. If you happen to have a copy of this game on the original CD, like I did for many years, you're going to need to put in some legwork to even get this installed. I've tried enough times over the years out of some misplaced sense of nostalgia to tell you that the CD installer won't work on its own. But, in his immense benevolence, or perhaps some sick desire to punish other owners of this game, a programmer named Bennyboy has created an improved installer and launcher, which he provides free of charge on his website, linked in the description. The launcher also has a nifty button to fetch and install the version 1.1 patch of the game, which fixes some of the game-breaking bugs. You could always try running this on ScumVM, but you'll need to download the latest development version, and even then, this is the only game I can find on their compatibility chart that's listed as bugged, which doesn't bode too well. So, once you've installed the game, you need to remember this one cardinal rule. Save your game often. If you're a LucasArts aficionado, this may not be a familiar requirement to you, but it's not Guybrush we're worried about dying, it's the executable. Throughout my approximately 11-hour playthrough, I had 4 crashes to desktop, 1 close call, and 1 soft lock that required me to reload an hour-old save. Based on the Steam forums and my ability to reliably reproduce these issues, these are not flukes. Even by today's standards, this game should never have shipped in this state. Let alone in 2000, when post-launch patches were not just uncommon, but barely even an option. Before we get on to the visual section, I do need to note one final tweak I made for my playthrough. I'm playing this game using DG Voodoo 2, a program that lets the game's old graphics code talk to modern graphics cards. The important feature here is that it lets you scale the game resolution. I honestly can't tell that it makes any difference in the game's graphical fidelity, but it does make it possible for OBS to capture the display and have it look normal instead of like this. Downside is that sometimes the shadows just go crazy. If you see this in my footage, just pretend they're normal, since you won't need to use this software unless you're some guy on YouTube recording videos of a janky 20-year-old pirate game. Speaking of 20-year-old jank, these graphics are actually not all that bad. They're not good, but they could certainly be worse. Do I think this game would have been better if it didn't try to make the jump to 3D? Definitely. Just take a look at the box art and tell me that making a hand-drawn game in that style wouldn't have blown this out of the water. Everything in this game is surprisingly round and smooth, which I actually find kind of charming. It lends itself to the light and goofy tone of Monkey Island, and almost makes it feel like this is taking place in some sort of pirate-themed section of a Disney theme park. Does this make it even more jarring when you see some nightmare creation from the polygon dimension? Yes. Is that a good thing? Maybe. I have a soft spot for the atrocities we made in the early Polygon days, but your polyjank tolerance may vary. The quality of the animation is all over the place. No, really, it's everywhere except where it should be most of the time. You won't be able to escape a scene without clipping through objects, character models clipping through themselves, or animations just not lining up with objects in the world.
Quiet, you!
The variety of locations this time is a bit lacking, with 3 populated islands to explore and a return to the infamous Monkey Island. Melee Island is used twice, with only 1 location changing between them, and the town portions of Lucre and Jambalaya Islands are incredibly indistinct. Monkey Island has some more interesting set pieces scattered around it, but throughout the gameplay, they do mostly just feel like set dressing for puzzles, unlike the more lived-in worlds of the previous games. The audio of this game is somehow even more unremarkable. No, seriously, I only have like one paragraph about it. It's fine. Michael Land took a backseat this time around, and I think it shows. No new catchy theme tune, just a recycle from Curse. The voice acting from the returning cast of Curse is great, and the rest is dubious at best.
I knew I should have given him a shave before I left. But what caused the explosive blast of demonic heckfire?
Oh, he was just letting off a little steam. Steam, get it? Hey, I thought it was funny.
The governor and Mr. Mandrill have a few questions they'd like to ask you.
Gee, I'd like to, but I have to wash my hair for the next 7 years.
Smart decision, my friend. You'll thank me after you've heard about this exciting opportunity. Stay with me. The full pitch takes just under 3 hours.
I knew this ridiculous plan would never succeed. I guess this just goes to show that you should never send an Australian girly man to do the work of a real pirate.
So you've probably noticed a distinct lack of the words point and click in this review. When Scum went, so did the pointing and clicking. You're in Grime Land now, and that means keyboard or gamepad controls. It doesn't matter which one you pick, you're going to suffer either way. This is the default control scheme for keyboard and mouse, and this is what I finally settled on as the least torturous to play. This game assumes that you'll be using arrow keys to move instead of WASD, and that assumption is right, because you can't rebind the movement keys. The actual decision you'll need to think long and hard about is whether you want to keep the default tank style, or character relative controls, or a more direct camera relative option. I remembered hating the tank controls in this game, so I swapped over as soon as I found the option. I then spent the next hour trying to run at small objects in just the right way to get the option to interact with them. You win this round, tank controls. No mouse means no clicking on stuff we want to interact with. Instead, Guybrush will stare at whatever object captures his attention, like the himbo he is. All of the nearby objects you can interact with will display a default interaction option at the bottom of the screen. You can cycle through these options with the page up and page down keys, or whatever sensible key you have rebound them to. And you will want to rebind these keys, because the number of times you need to run and quickly select an item that you want to interact with is not insignificant. Once you've selected the line that contains the item you want to interact with, you can do the action described with the default action button. But you also have the unseen option to use or examine the object or person in question. If that sounds clunky, it's because it is. And every action in this game makes me long for my beloved action coin. But nothing can possibly compare to the clunkiness of this inventory. Again, you have no mouse, so you'll need to scroll through this abomination anytime you want to fetch an item. It has the fairly unintuitive quirk that default action means that you want to take the item out of your inventory to use it in the world, and use means that you want to combine it with another object in the inventory. I played this so you don't have to. If you're a true masochist that hasn't played this and don't want to be spoiled for some reason, you know the drill. Otherwise, grab a bottle from your favorite microgroggery or a hot brew from Star Buccaneers and get ready for a tale of Monkey Island. The game starts with the exciting climax of Guybrush and Elaine's honeymoon, a pirate ship battle.
Stop daydreaming and make yourself useful!
Upon their return to Melee Island, we learn that Elaine has been declared dead at sea, the governorship is back up for grabs, and the governor's mansion is in the process of being demolished. Elaine heads to City Hall to clear up the whole being dead thing, and plan her campaign against Governor Wannabe
Charles L. Charles. But you can call me the next governor of Melee Island.
Meanwhile, Guybrush is assigned to stop the catapult, and going to Lucre Island to speak with her family's lawyers.
Oh, but I hate talking to lawyers.
And not as much as they'll hate talking to you, dear.
The catapult is actually a pretty nice puzzle to start the section off. It requires hints obtained from dialogue, exploration of each location on the island to obtain items, and a logical 3-step process to execute the solution once you have the items. Solid start. Now to get to Lucre Island. In true Melee Island fashion, that means we'll be searching for a ship and a crew. And this story structure isn't the only thing returning from Secret of Monkey Island.
Didn't we share a cruise to Monkey Island once?
I don't think so.
Carla, make the bad man stop! He's come to take us back to Monkey Island!
They aren't exactly thrilled to see Guybrush, considering how he... Wait, what exactly did he do to this crew again?
The crew you abandoned on Monkey Island, you mean?
Hold up. I did no such thing. Roll back the tapes.
We've got to get back to Melee Island.
No kidding.
Yeah, we're out of sunscreen.
Come on, let's go.
So it turns out there are actually different ways to escape from Monkey Island in the first game, depending on whether or not you accidentally hit the sea monkey with a boulder during one of the puzzles. That's kind of neat, and I never would have known about it if not for this interaction. Convincing them to join your crew again isn't all that difficult, but it is the first point where I suspected the game was messing with me for no reason. Carla and Otis want cushy government jobs in return for their service. Luckily, there's a standard job contract lying right here on the table, back in the mansion. It's a trick. This isn't a cushy government job. The cushy government job contract is one screen away, sitting on top of this desk. There's no clever puzzle here where you need to use the non-cushy contract. It's just a decoy. You'll also need to convince a navigator to join your crew. You'll get some exposition that an Australian named Ozzy Mandrill has been wagering at various new insult sports and winning businesses all over the Caribbean. You promptly challenge the navigator to a match of insult arm wrestling and easily defeat him on the first try. It's fine. At least there's a nod to the series' most iconic puzzle, even if it misses the point of the double meanings to each comeback. If anything, it shows Guybrush's growth as an insulter since he doesn't start with a blank slate. But don't think for a second that they did this to cut back on the arguably tedious and time-consuming process of gathering insults. Oh no, that will come later, don't you worry. Guybrush and crew head to Lucre Island to meet with Elaine's lawyers, which ends up being deceptively easy. They inform you that Grandpa Marley has some items that he's left for his granddaughter in his safe deposit box in the bank just down the street. You get let into the vault suspiciously easily for an adventure game, and retrieve Grandpa Marley's chest. That's when all plot breaks loose, and the bank is robbed by...
Stick 'em up!
Yikes! Who are you supposed to be?
Isn't it obvious? I'm Guybrush Threepwood.
Yeah, this Guybrush lookalike steals the goods and leaves you in the vault to take the fall for it. Guybrush is placed on island arrest and must catch and prove that his doppelganger was the real criminal to clear his name. This might actually be my favorite plotline in the game. It's something that we haven't seen in the series before. Sure, Guybrush has escaped prisons plenty of times, but he's never had to play detective like this. It's fun to piece together gossip about the no-nosed man, to learn his secret weakness, tail suspects to secret lairs, and to break into the crime scene to look for further evidence.
Colonel, you better take a look at this radar.
What is it, son?
I don't know, sir. But it looks like a giant...
Hey, a prosthetic nose.
The puzzles in this section are generally well thought out, but there is one cursed place in which all decency and logic is thrown out the window.
The Palace of Prostheses.
It's where you'll want to go for all of your artificial needs. Noses, legs, arms, difficulty. This shop holds items that you will need for every single line of puzzles on this island, and 2 of those 3 items require some truly bizarre leaps of logic to figure out. Let's start with the simple one. Like any true adventure gamer, you're intrigued when the store owner agrees to give you free samples. Items are the lifeblood of adventure games after all, so this is a no-brainer. The store owner will determine which prosthetic to give you based on the names you choose for a truly boring story.
They all died of liver disorders in their early 30s. You wouldn't believe how much grog those kids were drinking. The end.
What a dreadful story.
But here's the catch. Your adventure gaming instincts have betrayed you. You were too concerned with whether or not you could get free items to consider whether or not you should. Only one of these stories will yield a useful item. Which one? The one with the names etched into the bottom of the manhole cover outside the bank. So, what about all those other items? You're stuck with them for the rest of the game, clogging up this already horrendous inventory, doomed to eternally scroll past them in shame of your greed. The second item you'll need to get is directions to the no-nosed man's house, since he's naturally a user of the prosthetics shop. There's just a couple of problems.
Does this pirate thief of yours have a name?
Yeah, Pegnose Pete ring a bell?
Not that I know of.
Oh, that's too bad. Of course, even if I knew the pirate's name, it probably wouldn't matter. Without Pongo, I wouldn't be able to retrieve your pirate's file.
Alright, so you'd think we need 2 things. A name and Pongo the filing monkey. And you'd be wrong on both counts. Actually, the first thing we need is a smell. That's fine, we can figure that out from our initial conversation with Dave. And we even have a smelly handkerchief that Pete dropped during the robbery. Except, apparently this horrific stench of
anchovy halitosis
isn't strong enough for Dave's super sniffer. So instead, we need to rely on Guybrush's amateur sniffer.
It smells a little like fish snot.
To pick out distinct aroma notes and then collect 4 items from around the island and combine them into a perfume container in order for Dave to recognize the amplified stink.
Whew, that's an all too familiar smell. I guess I can't complain though, since Sean P. Carcanator is my best customer.
Well, let's go get that file.
I can't. Pongo, my filing monkey, ran away a while back. He was the only one who knew how to run the File-O-Matic.
Alright, I've played enough adventure games, and especially enough Monkey Island games, to know that this is a hint that we need to go and find Pongo the filing monkey. Except we don't. Guybrush is the file monkey we're looking for. All the Pongo talk is just fluff. Despite sounding like a clear hint to the player, instead, you'll need to fiddle around on the filing system yourself. No instructions, no hints, you're on your own for this. So, what's the solution? Each symbol on the wheel corresponds to a range of letters, and you'll fetch a file of a patient whose initials fall into the corresponding ranges. This is not intuitive in the slightest, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised to find out this was originally some kind of copy protection that got scrapped but was never removed from the game. Luckily, Lucre Island isn't completely irredeemable. The puzzle after this is the Mists of Time Marsh, which is a fun callback to the treasure hunt from Monkey 1. The Mist of Time earns its name when you run into yourself. Oh god, not again! Oh, wait, no, I guess it actually is Guybrush. Better make sure you remember how this encounter goes, or you could do irreparable harm to the timeline. Or just need to row through the swamp again, which is the far more tedious outcome to be sure. Getting through the swamp will reward you with some plot. It turns out this Ozymandias guy who's been pushing out all the pirate businesses is working with Pegnose. The Marley heirlooms have something to do with the ultimate insult, which Ozzy wants to use to rid the Caribbean of all pirate life in order to turn it into a corporatized tourist paradise. Luckily, I happen to know both of their weaknesses. Ozzy is of course weak to 3D geometry during cutscenes. Alright, maybe that's not canon, but Pegnose can easily be Scooby-Dooed with a crawfish trap, some grease, and his greatest nemesis. The actual way to foil Ozzy is to trick him into leading you to the hiding place of the stolen heirlooms. It's another decent puzzle, and seems to be a cool callback to the puzzle in Monkey 1 where you trick the shopkeeper into showing you the way to the Swordmaster. With the treasure, the robber, and the evidence from the scene, Guybrush is a free man and can return to Melee Island with Elaine's inheritance. And, for our efforts, we are rewarded with the biggest secret reveal in the Monkey Island series to date.
The pirates of Melee couldn't see through a window. They can't even see what's right in front of them.
What are you talking about?
Why, only the biggest lie of them.
That's right. Charles L. Charles is actually LeChuck. And he plans to use the governorship to somehow obtain the ultimate insult for himself and conquer the Caribbean? I'm not entirely sure why he thinks that becoming governor of Melee Island will lead him to the ultimate insult. Because of a largely unneeded twist added later in the story, it actually would help him, but he hasn't played Act 3 yet, so he can't possibly know that you need the gubernatorial seal of Melee Island to complete the ultimate insult.
I sense that you want to know what the ultimate insult is.
Good guess.
It is a powerful talisman that allows its owner to spew incredibly foul insults.
Yeah, keep that description in mind for the rest of this game. That leaves the question of how do we find the thing? Not much of a question, really. We were just given 3 of the 4 magic MacGuffins we need. Honestly, that's a blessing. Not much has changed on Melee Island, so retreading it would hardly be an entertaining endeavor. Instead, I had to get real cozy at the Lua Bar, the ill-conceived, hot new tiki bar that replaced everyone's favorite dependable scum bar. Can you tell this is a joke about the change in game engine yet? So, what are we doing here? Only trying to pull off the biggest art heist the Caribbean has ever seen. The target? A Meat Hook original blue period wax painting. The plan? First, Guybrush will enter the establishment, play it cool, sit down and order a meal. Sushi? No. What we need is a distraction. The flaming scuttlefish will do. Once the meal is in place, Guybrush will expertly disable the boat track with a sturdy paintbrush. That's when Phase 2 commences. Our second agent, also Guybrush, no, not that one, will make his way back to the kitchen while the chef comes to fix the track for some reason. Once inside, he'll pour highly volatile grog into the machine's boiler, causing it to sputter and die. With no way to start the track again, the painting will be burned to a pulp, leaving the chef with no choice but to give it to the man just seen leaving the kitchen. Well, glad that plan worked out just as expected. Now we just need to sail to Jambalaya Island and find the ultimate insult. On Jambalaya Island, we have a good old-fashioned treasure hunt for the 3 pieces of the ultimate insult. The story at this point is that Jambalaya Island has been completely consumerized by Ozzy. So it's home to such clever riffs on pop culture as Star Buccaneers, Planet Threepwood, and a craft micro groggery. Meanwhile, the previous pirate inhabitants have been shipped off to the much more creatively named Nuttin Atoll for re-education. Puzzles here are pretty standard adventure game fare. Scam a store out of some coffee to stay awake for a timeshare sales pitch, cheat at riding a mechanical manatee for a prize, win a diving contest through a mixture of smart item usage, memorization, bribery, and sabotage. Pretty decent stuff overall. Honorable and dishonorable mention goes to finding Tiny Lafitte's hat. You need to find the rock on this beach that's buried under, but the guy who buried it can't remember which rock. Luckily, his parrots do. Only one problem. One always tells the truth, and one always lies. Yeah, I know, this is a well-known riddle with a very well-known solution, but Guybrush isn't nearly that clever. Instead, you just get one drunk so you can tell which is which depending on which one wavers. That's all well and good, but actually interacting with these guys is pure tedium. At each rock, you'll need to invoke the ancient ritual. Rinse and repeat until finished. It took me 8 cycles, which was about 12 minutes of life that I will never recover. As for how we get this rock out of the way, well, that's pretty fun. The atoll is under the watchful gaze of who has decided that the best way to prevent a pirate uprising is to make sure 3 of them never gather in one place. After giving this man, who was broken by an ultimate insult, horrific flashbacks, we can use his finger puppets to meet the pirate quorum required for an artillery strike.
Moron! Spaz! Jerk! Idiot! Fire!
With all the pieces of the ultimate insult in hand, you can finally head home to get the biggest secret reveal in the Monkey Island series Wait, I already did this bit? Just roll the stupid reveal.
No way!
Yes way.
Ozzy, I had a feeling you were working for LeChuck.
I'm afraid you got it backwards, pirate boy. LeChuck's working for me.
Yes, LeChuck is working for Ozzy. Yes, this makes very little sense, even given the in-game explanation. And yes, it is a pointless attempt at subverting the formula of the story of these games. They relieve you of all those pieces of the ultimate insult you just found and maroon Guybrush on Monkey Island. This means that once again, we must find a way to
escape from Monkey Island.
This is where the gauntlet really begins. The island is full of puzzles. Unlike Secret, where the island itself is kind of a puzzle, this iteration of Monkey Island is just a big island that happens to have a bunch of puzzles on it. Let me give you an example. In the first game, you need to get some bananas from a tree to help you lure a monkey. You can do this by flinging a giant boulder from the top of the cliff in that direction. The puzzle was about knowing the island's geography and using information from different scenes to solve the puzzle. In Escape, you also have a rock-throwing puzzle, but it basically stands on its own. There is no intuitive way to figure out which way these chutes are going to fling the rocks, and the actual puzzle is figuring out the sequence and timing that you need to throw rocks into each hole. It's kind of a neat set-piece puzzle, but solving it is isolated from the rest of the game world. The one notable time the game goes out of its way to have deliberate interaction between locations, it completely misses the mark. I'm pulling weeds over here, and somehow the lava is flowing directly into the mine shaft over here. What sort of voodoo do you have to explain that one, Monkey Island? Aside from the set-piece puzzles, there are 2 other major puzzle lines to deal with. I'll cover Herman first because I want us to work our way slowly into the bullshit. Our old pal Herman Toothrot is back on Monkey Island. How? He's not really sure either. He has amnesia. The trick is to chuck things at his head to knock the memory back into him. This is the highest stakes puzzle on the island as well, because if you whack him with the items in the wrong order, you'll softlock your game. But if you do it right, you'll be let in on the biggest secret reveal. Alright, I get it. Herman Toothrot is Horatio Marley, Elaine's grandfather. At this point, the writing has sailed straight past winging it and has crashed upon the shores of Fanfiction Island. But fine, it's not like this series has always had a strict devotion to canon or narrative consistency. It does whatever it needs to move the plot forward. Anyway, Grandpa Marley knows about Ozzy's plan and tells us that he'll need the gubernatorial seal of Melee Island to complete the ultimate insult. He has one, and we know Elaine has one, so as long as they don't find hers, we should be just fine.
What in the name of Adam Smith's invisible hand is that?
Yeah, that figures. But I'm not worried about the ultimate insult right now, because I have to face something far, far more demoralizing. In order for Guybrush to win JoJo's respect, he must best him in the most ancient and respected art of
Monkey combat!
You know how I said they took out the insult gathering phase of insult sword fighting? Well, they replaced it with this.
Ah, eek, whoop.
Instead of punny insults and retorts, we now have to play rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock with a bunch of monkeys. And now I can tack causing me to make a Big Bang Theory reference on the internet onto this game's list of sins. So, how does this actually work? This certainly doesn't look like a game of rock, paper, scissors. There are 5 combat stances you can take. Each one beats 2 of the others and is defeated by the remaining 2. Relatively simple so far. Here's the catch. You can't just select the stances. You need to invoke a combination of 3 monkey words to switch between stances. To further complicate matters, you start off not knowing which stances defeat and lose to the other stances, or the word combinations to transition between stances. Your job is to observe both of these things while fighting monkeys to turn yourself into a human Turing machine capable of entering the correct esoteric combination of Ak, Eek, Chi, and Oop for any given situation. This makes for a mildly interesting CS 101 project, but for a player, it feels like you literally had a monkey write all of the insults for a sword fight. And these are not short fights. Insult sword fighting was usually over in 3 or 4 witty retorts, but every fight against JoJo Jr. takes 10 rounds of combat, and you have to fight 3 monkeys before you can even challenge him. So, what do you get for defeating him? His shiny bronze hat. And would you look at that, it's the puzzle where you craft an item that was important earlier in the game with a different set of materials. At least some of the formula is still being respected. So, using our prior ultimate insult formula of Golden Man, Silver Monkey Head, and Bronze Hat, we get... You know what? I'm not going to lie. I like this idea for this game. If you're going to make flashy set pieces and fanfiction level plot elements, you might as well lean in hard, and that's just what they did. So, what do we do now that we're the proud pilot of a giant freaking monkey mech? We do a dismally easy set-piece puzzle, watch a cutscene, and fight a giant statue of LeChuck piloted by Ozzy using... No! You are not making the final puzzle of this game.
Monkey combat!
But they did. Luckily, you don't need to actually win this fight. Both of you have infinitely regenerating health, so you'll need to think back on some dialogue.
However, when I was a younger monkey, I found that employing the monkey see, monkey do strategy allowed me to quickly master several simple moves. It also irritated my opponents.
Just draw 3 times by entering the same stance as LeChuck. He'll let go of Elaine, gain back enough sentience to smash Ozzy, and initiate the anime self-destruct sequence. Grandpa Marley takes over as governor again so that Guybrush and Elaine can continue living their pirate lives. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Escape from Monkey Island was a step forward for the series. Specifically, that last step you sometimes take going down the stairs, but there's not actually another step and you just slam your foot into the ground and wonder, what the hell just happened? In almost every respect, it feels like a weak approximation of the earlier titles in the series. It feels like something that was designed by committee. Lots of callbacks to previous games, and a bunch of story beats that I'm sure came from entirely separate people because each of them thought it would be a cool twist. The game just lacks focus overall. The plot is a huge miss in my book. Making the dreaded ghost zombie demon pirate LeChuck a secondary villain seems like they run out of ideas for him. And what do we gain in his stead? Well, we get an unambiguous antagonist with a dastardly plan to use voodoo magic to bend the Caribbean to his will. Wait a minute, we already had that. The only change this time is that the bad guy is corporatist flavored instead of a stinky undead incel. It is kind of neat how they poke fun at the commoditization of pirates in popular culture, since the family-friendly Disney-fied view of the golden age of piracy was the original inspiration for these games. But most of the actual jabs at pop culture and anti-corporate sentiment just comes off as half-hearted and out of touch when it's coming from LucasArts. So, is this a bad game? Yes. While I may personally dislike Monkey 2 because of the tone it sets and its hostility towards the player, it was still a very competently made game that had a vision. Escape feels like it was made because, well, it could be. LucasArts had a new engine laying around and an IP that was doing at least half decently financially, so why not crank out a game? I don't really see any inspiration beyond that, and that lack of inspiration is evident in the production quality. Alright, but what if it's on a really good sale? Between the abundant technical issues and longer playtime than the previous games, I still really couldn't recommend it. Come on, Myth, just give me a reason to play this. Fine, it's got Murray Ball. 7 out of 10. But what if I told you this wasn't the end of the tale? That's right, Monkey Island didn't die in 2001. Through a dark voodoo ritual known as licensing, Telltale Games was able to get their hands on the IP for another outing. And also, Ron Gilbert got the chance to make the game he actually wanted to after 30 years, so, guess I'm a bit late for this joke. But you should definitely tune in next time when I finally lay this branch of the Monkey Island multiverse to rest, with a look at Tales of Monkey Island.